Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another very special episode, part 2 episode of Trudge Report. This is a recovery-based podcast, even though we haven't touched on that in a few weeks, although there is some recovery stuff in these episodes. But don't worry, if you're not sober or you're not ready to be sober or you feel like contacting someone from the great beyond, we talk about plenty of other things, including sports, trending topics, a good bit of nonsense as always, and as we said last week, the paranormal. My name is Sean, and I'm your host. I'm joined by my good friends and fellow trudgers. Please remember to listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Videos will be posted each week, so you can watch episodes on YouTube and Facebook. But as always, please be sure to download on your listening platforms. Remember to like and subscribe on all social media outlets with the handle @TrudgeReportPod. We are brought to you by Stella Mix Podcast Management and our wonderful producer and editor, Miss Janine Stella. Gentlemen, welcome back. Episode 1 aired last week with Chris McKinnell, our very special guest, all about the paranormal and just everything he talked about. We have episode 2 coming tonight, and we are just as excited, if not more hyped for this episode. But let's go real quick. What did you guys think? Takeaways from episode 1. Greg, I'll start with you.
Oh man, I absolutely loved it. I'm so into this stuff. I always have been. I've talked about before my own experiences with the paranormal as a small child, and I think that some of that has played into that as I've grown up. But I've always been into this kind of stuff, and I found it absolutely fascinating. Couple notes here that I had: when he talked about the exorcism of Maurice Theriault, and just how brutal that was, and it certainly it just goes to show you how this stuff kind of works in the real world, right? Because it's not anything like we see in the movies. And I'm a horror movie nut. I love my fiance, actually, I think gets a little bit tired of watching horror movies, but she plays along pretty well. But I'm a nut for those. I love them. I love the Conjuring movies. I think that they're pretty well done, but Chris kind of shot that all to hell, and said that's nothing what it's like. So I think that that's important to let the audience know, but also just how kind of crazy these exorcisms and the hauntings and the possessions can be, and the length of time that can go on. I mean, we're talking about years that this guy was stricken with this, and that it kept kind of resurfacing, and if you looked into more to do with the Smurl haunting, which is the basis of the new Conjuring movie that drops this weekend, they experienced that for over a decade. If you believe all the accounts that are true, I mean, they were their home was possessed, haunted, whatever you want to call it, for over a decade that they dealt with this. So I think that is very telling. Is that this isn't just hey, we get a guy from the Roman Catholic Church to come in and do a wild exorcism where you see all this crazy stuff and then it's done and over with, but yeah, overall, I was just absolutely fascinated by the guy. So
nice. Corey, I want to kick it to you next, but I got to first say, dude, bravo to you, man. For everybody who may have missed this on episode 1, Corey just randomly reached out to this guy on Facebook?
Yeah.
He slid into his DMs, as the kids say these days, but
really good
just
at doing
randomly reached out to him on Facebook. Number one, because he was sober, and obviously we like horror and all that stuff. Had no real idea if he was going to respond, let alone say yes, he'd like to be a guest on our this here podcast. So, dude, awesome job, man. Just had to say that. And what were your takeaways on episode 1?
Yeah, this went so well, actually, that I've been sliding into many DMs ever since, such as famous wrestlers and plenty of people, and nobody's responded yet. So Chris may have been a one-off, but it was a good one for sure.
Damn good one.
I also wanted to mention real quick, I messaged Chris after our recording, and only because I forgot to ask him a question that I personally wanted to know. And I believe it's the second Conjuring movie that Patrick Wilson picks up a guitar and starts playing "Can't Help Falling in Love," that Elvis song, and all the kids sing, and it's a nice little scene or whatever. And I thought, I want to know if the real Ed Warren played guitar for myself. I want to know that. And he did not. He did not. He said that Ed and Lorraine loved to dance together, but his grandfather did not ever pick up an instrument. So just right there, Patrick Wilson is a fraud. But I'm just kidding. I love him. I love the Conjuring movies. And, I, as expected, in our episode with Chris, I kind of expected him to not be overly impressed with the Conjuring series. He did mention how he liked the first one, which is the best for sure. I'll say this and I'll kind of end, but like, I'm so happy that I like the fact that the Conjuring series exists, because it brought Ed and Lorraine Warren to so many households, right? They became a household name to many of people who probably, unless they were in the field of paranormal, maybe wouldn't have heard of them as famous as they were, right? And I went to see it in theaters back in 2013. I had just gotten my license, took my high school sweetheart to the movies, whatever, sat there, watched that damn movie, and was so scared afterwards. So scared. We walked to the car afterwards. I got in my 2002 Ford Focus, sat down, turned on the car, and then turned it back off, dropped the key in the console, and went to drive. And then realized that I didn't just lock a door or something. I don't know what I was doing, but I was so scared from the movie that I wasn't there anymore. But man, hearing Chris actually talk about real possessions and hauntings and stuff in our first episode we just had. I mean, no, it's not Hollywood, but like he said, and I think I even asked him, how fake is this stuff? I didn't say it like that, but he was I think his exact words were, no, it can be very over the top. Some of these,
just not as often as you might think.
Just not as often, right? Because every movie ends in an exorcism of some kind or whatever. Right. There's always a climax to that.
And they make you believe it happens all the time.
Right. So, but hearing him talk about some of those crazy cases was just wild. And like I said before, I mean, his conviction and authenticity says it all. And it's if you were a skeptic, like I may have been, or maybe, I don't know, or if you just didn't believe, it's hard to not after listening to Chris. So I thought it was a really good first episode, and I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, same here. Bill, what were your initial thoughts on first episode?
On the first episode, like I said earlier, I was captivated by everything he had to say. Just kind of feeling out his experience and what he was saying about different paranormal things, which, I still wonder why some of this stuff's not on camera if it happen semi-frequently with a certain group of people. But I probably should have asked that. But I find it all very fascinating. I find the whole culture of it fascinating, the whole how it's like a side culture of just people are very into it, and it's just very cool. I like it. And he's nothing but a gentleman.
Yeah. Yeah, I was admittedly and this is all credit to him, because I was wrong. He proved me wrong, but he made a somewhat of a joke right before we started recording the first episode, and I was like, oh God, this guy's he's like a cheese ball. You know what I mean? And maybe he is in his real life to his family and stuff. And that's cool, because I'm pretty sure I am too. But I was just kind of huh?
You're as cheesy as it gets.
That's fine. Yeah. So maybe cheese recognizes cheese maybe, but I just remember he made a joke, and I was just like, oh God, are we, is this going to be what I think it's going to be? And I was totally wrong. He was awesome. Awesome interview. Everything you guys said, genuine, heartfelt, very pointed, with some of the thing. He wasn't well, it kind of can be this. He was like, no, this is how it is. And I believed everything he said, for the most part and stuff. And my favorite thing was about how to protect yourself spiritually, things you can do. And the big thing, which is so much of what we talk about in our recovery and with the Emmett Fox stuff, is, it's so much of it is what we make of it in our own minds, right? If I am constantly thinking about bad, negative things, then guess what? Bad, negative things are going to happen to me. And that's a very, very simplified way of how he said it. But I don't know. I dug all of it.
That's one of the things that made me possibly more of a believer in that stuff, is his take on it coming from within ourselves. Because like like you just said, Sean, like, and we've talked many times over the years about manifestation and stuff. So I can sink my teeth into that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So that's very interesting.
Like how it works both positively and negatively, depending on which doors you're opening in your own life and in your own mind.
Which, if you're walking around, I know it's like me saying this and I'm grumpy Corey or whatever, but in reality, like if you're walking around as like a victim all the time and like with a negative mindset and whatever, like you kind of are haunted, aren't you? You know what I mean? Like maybe just by your own thoughts, but
to a degree, all four of us used to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Talk about demons.
All right. So then real quick, and I'm going to go in reverse order. So I'm going to go Bill, Greg, Corey. What are you most excited? What are you most looking forward to about episode 2 for him to talk about? Bill, you first.
I'm going to say probably Annabelle, probably getting into that. And
all right.
There were some other things revealed that I found more fascinating than that, but that wasn't the question. So,
all right. Corey?
Yeah, I mean, we get into talking about Annabelle and something that has probably been a topic in his life since he was like 6 years old. And man, we could have dove deeper down that rabbit hole, but the stuff we talked about was really good. Also, like, I'll say this, my the part I would like the listeners to really hone in on is when we start talking, and we're gonna ask Chris about recovery. So there's your recovery segment for the first time in 3 weeks, and religion, death, the afterlife, all that stuff, like what he makes of it. He comes from it, if I would say, from a spiritual angle, like we kind of do,
but like extremely rational though too, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, and he'll talk about it, listeners will hear it, but he talks about what he think God cares about most, and where it may not be a particular sect or religion, but he talks about what he thinks that God cares about most, and makes some very, very good points that I think will not be a foreign language to our listeners. So.
Yeah, I agree. Greg, what about you?
I mean, yeah, that stuff from this episode is, listen to every word is what I would have to say, but certainly something that hit home for me and was certainly kind of touching to me. But he speaks about the day that his grandmother died, when Lorraine passed, and kind of he goes into how the politics and the money and everything like that kind of divided the family from that point forward, and that's something that has I've dealt with a little bit personally in my own life, and certainly my family has a little bit too, and so I think that's a good cautionary tale for people, and a good reminder of what's important and what's not, and how damaging sometimes some of that money and fame and prestige can really be.
Yeah. The religion, afterlife, death, God thing was fascinating, but from a purely like fan perspective, it was Padre Pio. Everything about Padre Pio I thought was great. My mom taught me about him, so like he was a very familiar character in my Catholic religious upbringing, and so the Padre Pio stuff was really cool. So, guys, I'm pumped. I don't know about you guys. Well, I know you guys are pumped too. I'm pumped. I can't wait. Anything else before we roll into episode 2? Everybody good?
Roll the clip.
Roll the effing clip. Enjoy episode 2. And we'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on both these episodes as well.
So, Chris, let me switch gears to something I'm sure you've never been asked about. Annabelle. So,
what's that?
What happened?
What's that?
Yeah, right. So one of the first things, and I know your views on it, but I'd love to give you the opportunity to talk about it here. and the Annabelle doll was recently on tour, somewhat paraded around the country for people to go take pictures with and whatnot. What are your feelings on that?
I've made them abundantly clear long ago. It's incredibly reckless. I think it's a craven money grab. It's so dangerous. My grandfather painted a world famous sign, positively do not open. I've been around Annabelle since I was 6 years old. I have never opened that case, not once. I'm not stupid, you know. If you don't interact with its energies, you're safe. But they had people shoved up against the glass in a container where some guy who calls himself a priest has supposedly prayed around it, and then he's trying to hawk his wares at a table. I'm sorry, the man is not pious. He's not capable of giving you a good blessing and protecting anything. You can't just go through the motions and call yourself a priest. You can't get an online degree and call yourself a priest. It doesn't work that way. I think that they were endangering the public. Look, Annabelle is not a demon. It doesn't have a demon inside of it. My grandparents were Catholic. Back in the day, that was their understanding. But you also have to understand, my grandparents were amazing. They were the greatest researchers ever, but they were constantly learning. Back their first 6 years on the road, they didn't even believe in demons at all. Then the pendulum went a little too far in the 70s and 80s, and everything was demon. But by the 90s, it wasn't anymore. They were learning again. People want to quote their books back to me and say, well, that's not what they said. I was like, listen, I get that. But would you want to go to a doctor who was learning medicine from a textbook written in 1975? Yeah, they had good textbooks, but they weren't great. What we have today is much better.
Right.
Let's accept
theories evolve, evidence changes. So
this is a theory of a field of research. It's not a religion. And one thing I've learned from traveling the world is you cannot examine this field through a religious lens. That's a myopic view. It's a wonderful tool against these things, for controlling these things, but it is a terrible tool for understanding these things.
that makes sense.
So now, obviously, it goes to New Orleans, and there's a plantation fire lots of miles away and everything. Prison escape and whatnot. Probably not caused by the doll. Am I right?
No. And then the others were saying, we had a huge storm come through here. It's like, yes, you have storms all the time.
Right.
Come on. Anytime the paranormal is involved, the tendency is to make everything about the paranormal. Have a little discernment, folks. Yes, you may have a haunted house. Yes, you may have a ghost in there, but don't start obsessing over every little thing that's happening in the house. You hear a ticking, you hear a knick-knack, whatever. It's probably the mice in your wall or something. Don't jump to the conclusion that it's another paranormal manifestation, or you will be creating manifestations.
Right. Do you have any proximity experience with stigmatas in that realm? What are your feelings on that kind of phenomenon?
Well, my feelings are it's real because of Padre Pio. Padre Pio is the patron saint of my family. Back in 1977, my grandparents were invited into a house in Long Island by Channel 5 News, the Amityville Horror.
Right.
They didn't go in there, many times. They went in one time with Channel 5 News. And when they were taking photos, the news photographers were taking photos. There's a famous one of a moose on the wall and my grandmother in the living room. And if you look in the moose's antlers, you will see the profile of Padre Pio looking down at my grandmother. She had been reading about Padre Pio the night that they had been invited to Amityville, and they had been attacked that night. When I was in the Smurl house, I was in the master bedroom, and the master bedroom door slammed on me. And I immediately prayed for help to Padre Pio. And the whole room filled with the smell of roses. When Padre Pio's blood would touch, Padre Pio, by the way, suffered the wounds of stigmata, for those who don't know, for 50 years. Exactly. He was told by God, supposedly, that he would suffer these for 50 years and then it would be removed from him. And anything that his blood would touch would smell like roses. On the night he died, 50 years after it arrived, the stigmata disappeared. Doctors confirmed this. Through the years, he was tested again and again and again. He was an amazing man with a wonderful sense of humor. People would make pilgrimages to his monastery. And like for one man, every night I'm walking to this place would be saying, Padre Pio, watch over me, watch over my family. Please intercede with God for me. And he finally gets to see Padre Pio. And he says, Padre Pio, pray for my family, pray for me, intercede with God. And he says, my son, you've been saying that every night. Is there anything else? I've been told by a couple of psychics that Padre Pio does visit me because he thinks I'm funny, which I don't know how to take that exactly.
I would love that. Somebody thought I was funny.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I got goosebumps when you said the story. So there's something to it. That doesn't happen easily. So yeah, that's amazing to hear that. Was he in South America, Chris?
Oh no, he was in Italy. Matter of fact,
Italy. Oh, okay, yeah.
Biography you can watch on YouTube. I did. And he was special. He died in, I think, I know it was 60s. I can't remember if it was 67 or 69. But he showed up in Amityville. And then again in the Smurl house with me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Chris, I think another headline as of recent, which I'm sure you're already getting sick of being asked about, but certainly relevant. So news has recently broke that Matt Rife, the comedian, along with YouTuber Elton Castle, bought the house and the occult museum and has legal guardianship of the items and artifacts in the museum for 5 years. So what's your initial reaction when you heard that? What are your feelings on it, if you don't mind?
My initial reaction was, holy crap, is this for real? And then it was heartbreak because, again, I've lived in over 100 places around the world. There's only been one constant in my life, and that's my grandparents' home. Mm. People sell homes, I get it. But this was different, turning it into a tourist attraction with the express purpose of allowing people into the museum to make contact with things. My grandparents, I will tell you, I know for a fact my grandmother's unhappy with this and unhappy with the tour. Not only has she told me, she's told some very powerful psychic mediums, including some famous ones who've reached out to me. To protect them, I'm not going to say who. They haven't made it, made it public. I'm not going to. But come on, they spent their lives protecting people. And before anybody starts saying, "Well, didn't they make it a museum?" It was by special invitation in small groups and individuals only. No one was allowed to touch anything. Everyone had to treat it with respect. If you didn't, you were booted out immediately. Mm-hmm. Now, Oh, go on in and try to talk to Annabelle. No, do not interact with these things. That's insane. Your intention to connect with spirit is all it takes. It's not a Ouija board, for instance, that's dangerous. It's your intention. The Ouija board is only there to focus that intention. So is a pendulum or a seance or anything. Automatic writing. If that's your intention, if spiritual connection is your intention, that's the danger. If you're bringing negative energy, you're going to attract something negative. My grandmother used to say, like attracts like. If you're putting out positive energy, you're going to attract something positive. If you're putting out negative energy,
Absolutely.
You know, it's a weird thing, the sale of the home, and it's obviously that doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize it's all about money anyway, and that's a shame. And I'm sure you'd prefer it to have none of the property operate like this, but it's even weirder, in my opinion, that the home itself, separate from the museum, is now a tourist attraction. Like, that's where this couple slept, ate breakfast, lived. That was the one thing that caught me off guard there. I can see their logic in making the museum, making their dollar off of that, but just and there's my question for you is, I never thought, I could be completely wrong, but I never thought that aside from the items that are in the museum, that there was any type of haunting attachment or anything to the home itself. Am I wrong about that? Or
I was there the last year and a half of my grandmother's life. And I was lucky enough to be with her the last day of her life, all day, just the two of us. I was with her the moment she died. And it was beautiful. And she was there right afterward, letting me know she was fine. And for quite a while, I could hear both of them walking in the living room at night. I could hear them walking on the landing. I was in the in-law apartment above. My grandmother, by the way, designed that house, had it built to her specifications. There's only the in-law apartment with one bedroom and her part of the house with one bedroom. That's it. I don't know where the hell they're going to put 8 people. Maybe they're going to build tents in the backyard. I don't know. But I could hear them, they'd walk into my living room. They were just checking on me, letting me know they were there. And so that's the only haunting going on in my grandparents' house. And they're not there now. I promise you not. My grandmother has been very active in the world, and she's actually helped me on cases. Hell, she even saved my life 1.5 years ago. I was under attack and I wouldn't believe it. I'm a skeptic, and I didn't want to believe that anybody was directing negative energy at me, but I had been electrocuted. Literally, I tried to turn on my lamp on the side of my bed and it threw me across the room. I had bruises the size of my palm all over my body one morning. No explanation. I couldn't walk. I had things breaking all over the place. My daughter and I weren't getting along, and we get along all the time. There is never a problem with us. And my grandmother showed up to 4 psychics on the same night, and she said, Christopher is under attack. He needs to take care of it. He needs to stop ignoring this. Imagine my surprise the next Thursday morning when I wake up and I've got messages from 4 different psychics who don't know one another telling me I'm under attack and I have to take care of it. I did. I did 2 different rituals, personal ritual cleansing and then a house cleansing, and everything was fine right afterward, immediately afterward.
So what is that procedure for you, Chris? Just summarily, what you can share, maybe. I don't know.
No, I share it with everybody who needs it, but it involves a lot of essential oils, coconut milk, rum, anise seeds, a raw uncooked egg in its shell, and
clove. I think is that one of the, not clove. Okay.
No, there are so many.
Maybe I was summoning the wrong things with that.
No, there are a million different rituals. It is all about your intention. Mm-hmm. But this is the one I happened to use, and it worked beautifully. And then I did a ritual cleansing of the house where I smudged the whole home. I light a candle first to represent God's presence in the home. I go through, I smudge, I seal each room with holy water. And then afterward, I took that egg, which is supposed to absorb all the negative energy, and I buried it off the property, far from any home. I consecrated the ground with blessed salt, and I left it. And I was fine afterward.
I think it's very powerful that you use those tools specifically through all the experiences you have been through, and those tools work for you. I think that's a powerful message in itself. So appreciate you sharing that.
Sure.
So there's a couple more topics I want to get to real quick, and one of them is, I'm going to lump this all into one for time purposes. You already spoke about God, but what is your take on religion in general, death, the afterlife? I know I've heard you talk about kind of religion in the sense where I don't know how to put it, but how we can all have our kind of own belief. Does that make sense? Is that ringing a bell? I heard something in an interview once.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm a pastor, but I'm a pastor without any religion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe God cares about your religion. You can go to church every single week, pray Hosanna, Hosanna. But if you walk out on that street and you ignore the guy who's suffering on the curb, you're not getting any closer to God. My favorite proverb is actually a Hindu one. There are many paths up the mountain. It's only the fool running around the bottom telling you you're going the wrong way that never gets any closer to the top.
Yeah.
God cares about your heart. I struggled for 50 years. I studied every religion that you know of, every major religion in the world, as well as a lot that you've never heard of. I even studied with the Dalai Lama for a long weekend. And I couldn't find an understanding of the mind of God. I was really egotistical. I need to know the mind of God before I can believe. But then I heard NASA said they projected that there were more living worlds in the universe than there are grains of sand on Earth. And it clicked. I was like, how am I supposed to understand the mind of a creator of that? And that's when I found my faith. I found my faith in my acceptance of my ignorance. Faith isn't about knowing. Faith is about believing even when you don't know. And I think of God as a weaver. I have two images for you. God as a weaver, and I'm only one small thread in an infinite tapestry across the universe. I just have to have faith he's putting me in the right place at the right time to complete his picture. The other one is that God is like a blacksmith. And he takes us, the raw ore of our soul, our lives, and he puts us to the fire, and then he beats the hell out of us to shape us into what we need to be to do his good work. I've been beaten. I've fought against it my whole life. And it wasn't until I stopped fighting and learned from the beatings that I became the happy person I am today, who is able to have this conversation with you, share these things with you, and help others going through that. Death, to continue your question, isn't anything anybody should ever be afraid of. Of course, I understand dying can be hard. It can be painful. It can be dirty and messy, but death is not. Death is your car broke down and you got out. That's it. What do you do when your car breaks down for good? You don't cry over your car for very long. You get a new car. Even my grandparents, Catholic grandparents that they were, believed in reincarnation. My grandfather taught me reincarnation, hypnotic regression when I was 16. It's like handing a gun to a kid, but he did. I believe that when you die, if you don't pass over right away, and most people do, especially people who pass over knowing they're passing over, because they've got people around them. The day my grandmother died, there were souls all in that room. I could feel them. She couldn't at that point. She had Alzheimer's. But she actually said to me, first time, she hadn't spoken. She could sing. We were singing together, but she looked at me and she spoke and she said, "I love you." And later on that night, she died. And I know that she was helped at that moment because they were there waiting for her to catch her. Now, many times a soul wants to stay for a while. 7 to 40 days is normal. And they're watching us, making sure we're not grieving too much, making sure we're not holding on too hard. They want to make sure we're going to be okay. When we grieve, we're grieving for us. We're not grieving for them. For them, it's a welcome home party. For us, it's a bon voyage party. And that hurts. But sometimes they will stay to watch over us. Other times they have the ability to keep coming back. You know, often people will say, "Oh, that cemetery is haunted." No, the cemetery is not haunted. You're going in there with the intention of communicating with spirit. So you're calling those spirits to you. It's you that's making the place haunted. It's not. None of us wants to haunt our body. We don't care about that. We come back, we make attachments to people. We can make attachments to places that we love. Or sometimes, tragically, we are attached to the place we died. In that moment, stuck, lost, not able to pass over. If anybody has ever seen the movie The Others with Nicole Kidman, that is a wonderful representation of what it's like for a soul that doesn't know they're dead.
Wow. I was that's exactly, as far as the God discussion, that's exactly what I was hoping you would talk about. For us on this podcast, we're all in sobriety. We've all that, and I'm getting ready to ask you. We've all achieved sobriety by way of a spiritual way of life that we certainly did not have before sobriety. And it's only because of that way of life that we have it today and have ever achieved it. So that's exactly what I was hoping you'd talk about, because for our listeners too, many, just like I would say all four of us, maybe didn't grasp onto a specific religion when entering sobriety, whether we do now or not, or did previously. At the time, I would say none of us probably did. But we bought into a lot of other people got sober by way of like the God idea, right? So for our listeners, I think that'll be helpful. For you, I'd heard an interview with you that you mentioned your own recovery. Is there anything you can tell us about that? However much you feel comfortable sharing. What was it like before your recovery and now? Just anything you want.
I'm an alcoholic, and I struggled with it for many, many years. I tried other things. I tried drugs occasionally, but never really was my thing. I was trying to escape pain. Stupid, but that was true. And my son was 9. We had just lost my fiance to cancer. We lost our house. We lost everything. It was a snowstorm, and I had bought beer. I was in such bad shape physically that I was unable to go into the liquor store to get my own beer. They would meet me outside with 2 30-packs and put them in the back of my car. They put the wrong beer in there. It was like old Milwaukee Ice. And when my son had to go out and get it in the snowstorm and bring it back in, and I saw what it was, I thought, I can't do this anymore. And I stopped. It was a miracle, to be quite honest. I'd struggled for years and years. Now, I have relapsed. I relapsed a few years ago, and I'm clean and sober again, and I'm very happy with that. I wouldn't change it for the world. Mm-hmm. But I have an addictive personality. I do this with all sorts of things. I'll get focused on like a certain donut, and I'll eat that for like 6 months. It's just who I am. But I'm going to go back to one thing. for anybody who is trying to figure out their own path, religion can lead you to a spiritual connection to God. Religions are paths that have been laid down by someone previously, unfortunately, often then tinkered with by many, many other hands afterward. But you don't have to follow that path. All that matters is you're practicing empathy and compassion for others. And nobody should have more empathy in the world than people in recovery.
Mm.
They are the most spiritually aware and caring people that I've ever interacted with. And that's why tonight was so special to me, being on this program. I want to reach your listeners. I want them to know that they are valued and that we're here to help them.
Thanks for that, Chris.
Absolutely.
I have a
Appreciate that
quick
part.
question if we have a second, and it's a little bit another lane. What is your take on people? One example that comes to mind is Aleister Crowley. People that peddle in the occult, promote it, liken it, make it almost try to make it seem attractive. Do you think this is sort of like a scheme, or just summarily? I know this is probably a perplexing, topic, but
Well, you got Anton LaVey, who founded the Church of Satan. Look, I've met some of those Satanists, and they're really nice people.
right.
They're not doing blood sacrifices and everything. Having said that, I've also met really nice witches in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico who do practice white, green, red, and black magic. And now for people who don't know any better, it's like, oh my God, it's Satanism. It's black. It's evil. No, it's not connected to Christianity at all. You cannot judge these things according to your own cultural perspective. Having said that, yeah, obviously, if you're hurting somebody, that's not right.
Right.
Even a love spell, that's bad because you're taking away somebody's free will. Look, Crowley, the man, I do believe, studied it, but he was also a showman. He was also performative, very performative. And he made a life out of that. He lived on that. There are a lot of people out there who have devoted themselves to understanding these things. I believe in quantum physics. I believe in energy. Everything is energy. And with the right intention, with focused intention, we can do an awful lot for good or evil. So those people were doing it in their own way, but people are still doing it today as well. The ritual I did to cleanse myself was a form of magic. I hate that word. I find it intellectually insulting. It's energy manipulation.
Right. And even like Ozzy, more recent that comes to mind was a similar kind of breath of, the same, I think, right?
And a showman.
Right. What's interesting. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, definitely. Thanks for answering.
Sure.
All right. I don't know. Anything else you want to leave us with, Chris?
Yeah, actually, the important things, which are if anybody is in trouble and needs help, reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. It's why I do these programs, to let you know where you can find help. You can go to www.warrenlegacyfoundation.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And also, if you want a deep dive into the paranormal, if you want to really learn, I do offer a monthly Zoom presentation. It's an hour and a half or a little bit longer. And then there's an hour question and answer period afterward. The next one is on August 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern. Contact me. I'll send you the link, or go to my Instagram. It's in my bio. It's on my TikTok bio, I think education is necessary for overcoming fear and empowering you. Once you understand that the footsteps in the hallway are not the devil. They're probably the old man that lived there, or they're probably your grandmother come to make sure you're okay. Your fear can be a beautiful experience instead of being terrifying.
Yeah.
Love that.
Very good.
And for our listeners, I will be begging Chris offline for some great pictures. Maybe we can put into the thread of the video. I'll do that for you guys.
Sure. Well, you will not catch me investigating anything anytime soon, but it is fascinating, and really appreciate your time and what a legacy, you know, what a legacy. I'm glad you're carrying it on, and it's been really, really nice. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This has been amazing.
My pleasure.
Chris, I stayed quiet most of the time, and I just want to say, man, that was awesome. Like, really, truly fascinating stuff. I don't know a lot about it like these guys do, but I learned a lot, and I thought some of your viewpoints and philosophies and just overall message, just awesome, dude. Like, really, truly, like, so much respect for you and the work you do and the mindset you take into it, and just everything like that. Really. Just awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll link your info and how to get in contact with you in the show description and all that stuff and all that info. Because I think that's great that like you want people to know where they can go, get help.
And it's all free and confidential. I want people to understand that.
And the beauty of your story, Chris, is that you when you simplified the God problem, you found the right path, and it's ironic that we all did the same thing. And simplifying it was actually caused the real discovery, right? So thanks for sharing that.
Faith came through ignorance. Who knew?
Well, ladies and gents, there you have it. Our unfortunately at the end of our 2-part episode. I don't know about you guys, but I could have talked to that dude for weeks. Just an all around fascinating.
I just want to hear more about Padre Pio. That was fascinating.
Yes, absolutely.
Greg, your closet door just opened by itself.
Chris, I need your help.
It's okay. There's a dark figure floating around Bill's background. So
it is the season. But yes, Trudge Report on behalf of the 4 of us. I would just love to say thank you to Chris. Thank you to Corey for setting this up, and thank you to Chris for being so gracious with your time. Chris filmed that from where he was at in Paraguay.
I think it was Argentina.
Paraguay.
It was Paraguay?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and he filmed that with us, I believe, what was it, like 6:00 in the afternoon, something like that. But, like definitely like took his time out to do that for us. And that was just absolutely
very
fantastic,
gracious
of him to do. We are going to have all kinds of stuff in our liner notes for the show. So please, click those links, especially, if you're interested in exploring more. We're going to have all of Chris's stuff up there. Chris McKinnell on Facebook, the Warren Files on Instagram. Official website is www.warrenfiles.com. The Warren Legacy Foundation, which is set up on Facebook as well as a Pinterest, a Patreon, and of course on YouTube under @the Warren Files. In our show notes, we're going to have a little sizzle reel. Chris sent us some pictures of some different stuff that he has from along the way that are just really cool to check out. Different paranormal stuff, different pictures of his grandparents, of him with his grandparents, of the cast of The Conjuring with his grandparents. So just very, very cool stuff. So go ahead, give that a follow, give that a look if that's something that you're interested in. We thank you guys for tuning in. Again, follow us on all of our socials at Trudge Report Pod. If you're struggling, if you want to reach out, please feel free. If you love this episode and had something to say about it, if you hated these 2 episodes and had something to say about it, email
me
us
directly.
Yeah,
smash that like button, people.
Smash the like button, smash the hate button if you want to, but let us know how you felt about this stuff, because certainly for some of us very near and dear to our hearts, and just an absolutely fascinating couple of episodes with this gentleman. So thank you once again. We are very grateful for him, very grateful for all of our listeners.
Yeah.
God bless. Peace, love, and happiness. And we will be back sooner than you know it with some more recovery related content.